Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, I'm Mark Rapine. I'm a nature photographer based out of Florida. This week I wanted to give you a tutorial on these time lapses that I've been doing. I've seen these on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube before, and I recently figured why not try it out myself. So I personally have been using Davinci Resolve to do this, but I've seen people do it in Premiere Pro or numerous other video editing softwares. Anything that you can do, anything that you can use to edit a time lapse should work just perfectly fine. Other things that you'll need, obviously a camera. You could do this with your cell phone, a GoPro. I've got my Sony that does time lapses. And then if you're using an actual camera body, you'll need something that is something. Hold on. And if you're using a actual camera, something that doesn't automatically do time lapses, you'll need some sort of shutter release or something so that it will take pictures on a timed interval back to back. So my camera has that ability internally, or you get a remote shutter to do this for you. So now that's pretty much it for the intro. Let's get into what I'm shooting here. Forgot to mention, I think the best time to do this, to utilize this sort of technique, is either sunrise or sunset, somewhere where you can see some color change in the sky. And then I also like to have some sort of cityscape in the frame, especially if I'm doing a sunset, so that I can do, I can have those lights coming on in the buildings and things like that, which I think gives it a little extra effect. Not necessary, but something to think about when you're planning your own version of this. You'll also need about at least an hour, I'd say, of time to shoot the time lapse, and then however long it takes for you to process it in post. For me, maybe another 20 minutes, half hour, something like that. So an hour and a half, and you could have start to finish one of these little time lapses of your own. So with that, yeah, let's get into it, and I hope you enjoy. If you do learn something or get anything out of this video, I would really appreciate either you sharing this with somebody else or liking and subscribing. Really helps me out. Thanks. All right, so start out, you pick your location. This is kind of my spot. Yep, there we go. This is my spot. So I'm gonna set up my time lapse now. So I have it within my camera here. So I have it on aperture priority so that the shutter speed will change. If I go into my menus, interval shooting, switch this to on, 6 seconds, 1 second start, 360 photos. And we're just gonna let that go. So now, when I let it go, it will start shooting, and that'll go for about a half hour, and hopefully we'll see the nice sunset, change of colors, and maybe some lights coming on in those buildings, and maybe some boats coming in, things like that. It's one thing I do want to mention, as you're shooting on a camera here, make sure when you start, your shutter speed is fairly high so that as you lose light, you're not interrupting that interval that you set. So I set a 6-second interval, and I took 360 photos, and I started, I believe, at like a 1/60th or 1/100th of a second, so that as the night went on, it would, you know, fade down into that 6-second mark. That's obviously when you're shooting in shutter priority for this time lapse. So, or aperture priority, not shutter priority, so that the shutter will move in length. So, all right, so my time lapse finished up there. It is fairly dark, as you can see, and yeah, let's take you back and edit this bad boy. All right, so now that we have shot our images, what we want to do is bring those into Lightroom, and we'll start from there, and then I'll jump over to Davinci, or like I said, you could do this in Premiere Pro or any other video editing app that you're familiar with, but I use Davinci, so that's what I'm going to show you today. All right, so now that we have our images shot, I'm going to show you what to do afterwards to create this time slice, time lapse effect that we are going for. So here in Lightroom, I have imported all of our images. I have not done anything to these yet, but you know, you can obviously spend as much time in Lightroom as you want to get that color, you know, that you want, or there's transitions between the scene, you know, that you specifically want. What I'm going to do for the purpose of this tutorial is just kind of come in here, and we are going to go kind of in the dead middle and just start tweaking it to our liking. So a lot of this, and as you can see, I do have all of our images selected so that it automatically syncs. We've got our auto syncs checked here, so it's going to automatically sync everything together. So I'm just going to do some quick adjustments here to kind of get this to kind of where I want it. I think that's fine. That's probably fine. Let me bump up that maybe. Get maybe a little contrast on there. Could sharpen it a bit. Okay, so I think that's pretty decent, and you can see kind of the before and after, so I didn't do a whole heck of a lot, but you know, it shows what you can do, right? So as those kind of sync together, we'll let it go. And I've found that this takes a minute, so we're just kind of letting all the images sync together now. And we want to make sure, you know, before we export, that everything kind of looks right. So the way we could do that, you know, with everything selected again, we can go up into our, I think this is the loop view. Yeah. So now we can do to kind of check everything, go back into loop view, and just with everything selected, we can just quickly go through and just see how that transitions. I think that looks pretty nice. So I am going to go ahead and export. I've already got a time lapse export set up in Lightroom, but as you can see, I have this set up for some other stuff. We'll call this Skyline Time Slice. And I've got it set up so that it would do that. And we're gonna do St. Pete. Yeah. So basically, I'm telling it to put all my images into a single folder, and then we're gonna rename the images. I do some custom text. The most important part here is that you do a sequence of some sort. So if you want to set this up and put it, for a future export, I highly recommend it if you're going to do this a lot. If you're going to do time lapses a lot, make sure you have a sequence set up. And that's going to allow your video editing software to recognize that these images were taken in sequence, and it's going to easily put those into a video format for you instead of single images. So we're going to start at 1. We're going to have these JPEGs, quality 100, sRGB, no resizing, screen standard there, and then do nothing after. So we'll let this go ahead and export. And I do have 360 images, so this might take a minute. Perfect time to go grab a coffee, grab a tea, water, whatever. Get up, stretch your legs a little bit, especially if you've been editing for a while and getting the color, the images color and everything right to where you want. So yeah, we'll let this sit, and I will come back in a minute here. So now that we're done with exporting from Lightroom, we're going to open up our Davinci Resolve and go into our first tab here and find your folder. Yep. And we're just going to drag that down into 𝐓𝐴, into our bin. Now with this, we have our timeline. We're just going to go ahead and drag it onto our timeline. Now you can see there's a few issues straight away. So there's these black bars on the side. Right now our space is set up for a 16:9. So if you were going to do this for say Instagram or TikTok or something, you might want to switch this to the vertical view. I personally want to start out with your normal video timeline, your video aspects. First thing I'm going to do is bump the zoom up to a 1.2 to fill in those bars. And if you need to reposition your left or right, you can. I'm going to leave this kind of centered because I like how that looks. And then from here, you could just, play this. Obviously, my computer right now is kind of struggling, but that's okay. You can play this back, and as you can see, it's a great video, great time lapse. But what we want to do is so right now this is 15 seconds. We could leave it at that, or we could go Command R and redo this to say maybe 12 seconds and just speed it up a bit more. Or we could do actually let's do 8 seconds. And the reason for this, let's do 8 seconds. And the reason for this, you want a second for every bar that you have in your clip. That seems to be the best ratio. You can obviously have more or less if you wanted to do that, but for me, I get the best results with about 1 second per bar. So since we're at 8 seconds, we're going to look for 8 bars in the next step. So from here, we're pretty much done. You could go in and mess around with the colors if you want, do some color grading here as well. I found that works out pretty well just because you're color grading on the entire video and not just one frame, as you do in Lightroom. So if you want to save your color grading for Davinci or Premiere or whatever editing software you're doing, be my guest. I prefer in Lightroom just because I don't really know Davinci that well. So we're going to go to our export tab. We're going to call this, let's call this 𝐓𝐡𝐞 time slice. Yeah, we'll just call this 𝐓𝐡𝐞 time slice. And all of our settings are basically the same. 24, yep, Add to queue. Oh, obviously you need to pick your place to put this. I am going to put this in the same place that I put the other video, so, or all the, what am I trying to say? All the photos, I'm going to put it in that same area so that I know exactly where it is. And if I resize my screen there, I can go ahead and render this. Let this render. It's going to take a few seconds depending on your computer. I've got a decent machine here, so I think it does a pretty good job with these sorts of renders. And there we go, boom. So now, when we go back to our first tab here, we can go back and find, this is our, this is the video that we just put out. Why is it not? Yeah, there we go. So you can see how smooth that's playing back. And yeah. So that's that. And now if we go ahead, go back into our editing tab, you could either delete this or create a new timeline, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to delete it and we're going to place our clip back in here. And you can see it's 8 seconds, just like we want it. It does come with a sound layer. You don't really need that, so I typically unlink that and delete it. And then you want to go ahead and copy this, and we're just going to paste it 8 times to the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 because we had one to begin with. So from there, we're simply going to go ahead, drag this up, go back to the beginning. If you hold shift and use your arrows, it'll go over 1 second in the timeline. Kind of drag, command click that clip, that first clip. You can bring this up. If you want, you can go shift arrow again. Same, and you're just going to continue this on until you lay out all 8 into the line right on top of each other. The timeline here, so you're going to have 8 timelines, one right on top of each other, and you'll see in a second why I want to do this. This is how you're going to create those bars. I'm going to bring this up so you can kind of see. So right now, we've got 8 clips right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if we were to go with one more, it would restart right there, which is great. From here, we're going to do a little math, a little back of the napkin. Pull my calculator. So, we have in our sidebar here the crop. And what we want to do, so we want to crop left. And you can see as we crop this in, it creates a hard line from where that first clip is and that second clip starts. So we've got 1920 overall. right? And we want 8 bars. So we go 1920 divided by 8, get 240. So we come in here, put it at 240. That's going to be our first bar. Deselect and select that third clip. What 240 times 2 is 480. Let's see, what's that? Oh, yeah, no. Oops, 240 plus 240. There goes 720. I should have done that by my chart here. We're just going to keep it going, keep it going. Make sure there's wrong with it as well. What's that for? This should be, is it 680? Yep, and there we go. And then you can see that each time it ends a clip, it's going to go to black. So right now this is what we got when we play this video. You'll see those bars coming in slowly into the frame. And then as the clips end, it's going to fade to black, which is fine. I will show you kind of how to get rid of that. From here, we want to select them all. Again, copy. And we can go to the end here. Actually, we go here and paste it right in there. And now, as it goes through, you'll see that it doesn't quite, it doesn't fade to black right away. It restarts, which is kind of cool. What I prefer to do is on the second row here, we are going to reverse the speed so that when it comes through, it's going to go in the opposite of what it was. Now from here, we can take all this. You could either export that out if it's easier for you to look at it that way, or you could just copy, paste, paste, delete the gaps there. Now we've got a pretty solid clip length. And what I'm doing right now is I'm going to take the back end of this and put it in the front here. So I just stuck my timeline marker at the end of the first timeline and hit Command B to slice all of the clips at once. And what that will allow me to do if there we go. So now you can see that it cleanly breaks at the end, and we have all the bars to start in the beginning. And you'll just see it kind of go through. And that is how you create it. From here, I think it's pretty obvious what we're going to do. We're going to take our file, and we'll go to P time slice. B1. Add that to Q. Boom. And we'll let this go for a minute. And now, with that rendered out, you're pretty much done. You can go ahead and take a look at your final product in your Finder. So let's go ahead and do that and pull this up. And you'll see there's the full clip. We hit play. You can see all of our bars here. And it fading, to day to night, fading through this sunset. I love that pink that comes through there. You can obviously add more bars, you can subtract, have less bars, depends on what you want. I might go ahead and add some more because I think those bars are a little thick. But yeah, you can mess around with it, and that's how you do it. So I hope you learned something, and that if you do go try this on your own, I hope you share it with me. You can find me on Instagram, on YouTube, at @MarkRapine. If you're not subscribed and you like this sort of video or photography in general, please follow me, and yeah, we'll catch you on the next video. Peace.